Welcome back to the channel, guys. And we were discussing previous year's question paper. This is a series of previous year question papers, and we have finished till 2017, and now we are taking up the 2018 paper. GS Ethics Paper 4, UPSC 2018. Again, the same pattern, two videos. The first video it is going to focus on the section A, question and answer, and the second video that is going to focus on the section B, that is case studies, right? So let's not waste the time and let's get into the discussion of 2018 solved paper ethics, right? So let's see the first question. The first question: state the three basic values universal in nature in the context of civil services and bring out their importance. Here, very straightforward question, and every year the questions related to these foundational values, it's there, and questions related to ethical, these values, moral values, and also the questions related to emotional intelligence, every year there will be one question based on these topics. So make sure that you know at least 5-6 the important basic values you should be aware of. You should be in a position to write at least a paragraph, and also you have to give an example. So again, here also integrity, it has asked so many times, 3-4 times it has asked integrity, and the question was asked on impartiality and dedication. So the whatever the foundational values that are mentioned in ERC report, especially in the 10th report, ethics in governance, you go through with all these foundational values. There are 7 or 8 principles. Go through with those values, and also make an example. Also in the examination you have to give the examples also along with your explanation. So foundational values, this is very important topic, very simple topic, very important topic. Every year there will be one question based on these values. So let's get into the discussion of this particular question. Here, three basic values. First, I am taking up integrity. Integrity in general, integrity is that sorry, integrity is that being honest and being sincere. Usually, and I am honest when nobody is watching, that is integrity. There is an internal accountability. I am answerable to my inner conscience. So I am honest when nobody is watching me. So honesty and sincere. And another thing is, integrity is being consistent in what I think, what I say, and what I follow. So consistent in thought, speech, and action. In general, this is what integrity is. But when you think of integrity in the context of civil services, it means that I have to integrate with the established rule, regulations of civil services. Civil servant, there is an established rule, and if I am a civil servant, if I am a public servant, I have to follow these established norms. I have to follow these established rules and regulations. That is my integrity with respect to civil services, and this integrity is considered as a value of values. So if you have this integrity, based on the integrity, other foundational values also enter into the picture. We have probity, we have compassion, we have empathy, we have dedication, we have commitment. All these values, foundational values, are based on the one particular value, that is integrity. Because you are honest when nobody is watching, because you are answerable to your conscience, and your conscience tells you to do the right thing, and you are going to do the right thing. So that is integrity. And if I am a public servant and I have this value of integrity, then I am not going to involve in corruption. I am going to resist the corruption, and if there are any conflict of interest, I am going to handle it extremely well, and if there are any ethical dilemma, I can handle it in a very efficient way. So ultimately I am going to uphold the rule of law. There is a strict adherence to the established rule of law, established rules and regulations. So that is integrity. And finally, what is the ultimate aim of this public services, ultimate aim of the civil services? It is the welfare of the citizen. So if I have this value of integrity, my commitment is with respect to welfare of the citizen. I am going to uphold the public trust. So this is with respect to integrity, and you have to give an examples. Standard example I always give, that is Dr. Abdul Kalam. His family members visited the president house when he was the president of India. So whatever the expenses occurred, he gave it from his personal bank account. Usually what happens, nobody is going to ask the president that your family members visited, and see, these minute detail nobody is going to ask, even within the administration also. But even though he know the rules and he followed the rules, these are very small things. He could have ignored it, but it clearly shows that person has the value of integrity. He is respecting the rule of law. Being a president, he is respecting even very small aspect of rule of law. So this is integrity, and there is an example. Let's move to the next one. The next value we are talking about is tolerance. What is tolerance? Tolerance is that I have certain way of life and you have certain way of life. There are differences in my way of life and your way of life, but I am respecting, I am accepting your way of life. This is the tolerance. So this tolerance should be there in our society. If we have tolerance, eventually this will lead to the peace and harmony in a society. I have to have the tolerance towards the way you think, your point of view, your religion, your customs, your language. There are difference in our country. It is such a vast country, such a diverse country. There are a lot of difference, multicultural, multi-ethnicity, multi-religion. So if I have the value of tolerance, I am going to respect your way of life, your thought process. You are your customs, you are religion, everything. So tolerance, it is very much important to establish peace and harmony in a society. See, we have a diverse viewpoint, there is a dissenting viewpoint, but if we have that tolerance, we can live peacefully, we can live in harmony in a society. So this is tolerance. But tolerance from a perspective of civil services. See, I am a civil servant, and why do I need the tolerance? I told you that India is a diverse country, multi-ethnicity, multi-religious, multilingual. So in that vast diverse country, if I am a civil servant, I have to have this tolerance. Then only I can respect this diversity. I am going to celebrate this diversity. If I don't have this tolerance, then I am going to develop some kind of negative attitude towards someone else's practices. So me being a civil servant, it is mandatory that I have to have a tolerance. One thing. And the second thing is, see, I am a civil servant, and there will be a lot of criticism. There will be positive, constructive criticisms also, there will be negative criticisms also. See, if I have the tolerance, I should be in a position to accept diverse views, opinions and the feedback. And even if I get negative feedback, I have to accept it, I have to work on it. If I don't have this tolerance, if somebody gives me negative feedback, I am going to be offended. See, I am a civil servant, it is my objective to work for the people, work for the welfare of the citizen. If I keep on getting offended for small things, it is going to impact the public services. So here, if I am tolerant, I am going to accept the diverse views, I am going to accept the different opinions, I am going to accept the negative feedback also. So see, it does not mean that you have to accept it, you have to implement each and everything in your life. That is not the thing in tolerance. It means that you should respect it. It does not mean that you implement every single criticism, every single feedback you are going to receive. No, this is not the case. You have to respect it, because it is a ethnic, multi-religion, multilingual, it is a very diverse country. So this is with respect to tolerance. So ultimately, tolerance, I told you that this is going to support the peace and harmony. So if we have the tolerance in the society, this is going to support the equality in the society. This is going to, we have a secularism, so it is going to uphold the secularism, it is going to uphold the brotherhood, the fraternity. And example, you can give examples of Akbar, you can give examples of Ashoka, the religious tolerance they have showed in their administration, and also the basic philosophy, Sarva Dharma Samabhava of Indian philosophy, that also you can give, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. These are some of the examples you can give with respect to tolerance, right? So I think we finished. Yes, let's move to the next, the third value. The third value, it is trustworthiness. And the trustworthiness, it is a certain quality, and in that quality, the aspect of reliability is there, aspect of honesty is there, and the aspect of dependability is there. Trustworthiness, it means that if I say something, I fulfill that commitment. So trustworthy, there is a reliability, because I have told something, I told you that I come at 9 o'clock, I will come at 9 o'clock. And because of that, there is a dependability. And it also, honesty is also important, because if I am honest, then only I am committed to my words. So this is trustworthiness. Now we have to see from a perspective of public administration, from a civil services. Here there will be consistency between my words and my actions. I am a civil servant, I have told you that I am going to construct hospital in particular remote area. Then I have to fulfill my commitment, because already government has given me funds and it is my responsibility to build that infrastructure. So I have to commit myself. So if there is a consistency between my words and actions, people are going to trust me. It means that I am fulfilling whatever I have said. So my words and actions, so that will lead to the trustworthiness. So this is trustworthiness. And in public services, in order to consider somebody trustworthy, the first aspect is truth, and the next aspect is dedication. And truth and dedication for what? Public welfare. And how do you manifest, how exactly it manifests in public services? The first aspect here is that if there are any conflict of interest, I am a public servant, it is my responsibility to disclose the conflict of interest. See, if I disclose this conflict of interest, these dilemmas to the public, people are going to trust me. I am going to build the trust factor, and then I have to maintain honesty, transparency and accountability in my decision making. So when I maintain this honesty, all these things, it means that there is a dedication factor, and this dedication towards the public welfare, and this in turn, this is going to ensure I have that trustworthiness. And then strict adherence to the impartiality and non-partisanship. And finally, if there is any sensitive information, see, within the administration you are not divert these kind of sensitive and confidential information. So even within the administration also, I have to maintain this confidentiality. So if I maintain this confidentiality only, there will be trust factor in the administration. My colleagues are going to trust me, my hierarchy, higher officials are going to trust me, because I have maintained this confidentiality of this sensitive information. So eventually I am enhancing my trustworthiness. Eventually this is how the trustworthiness, it is going to manifest in civil services. And if there are any misconducts, I have to report it, because I am maintaining honesty, I am maintaining transparency, I am maintaining accountability. So I have to report the misconduct, and ultimate objective is that I have to uphold the rule of law. And this rule of law I am upholding even when there are obstacles, even when there are negative repercussions. Even with all these, I am upholding it, and eventually this will lead to the trustworthiness in civil services, right? So this is with respect to trustworthiness. We have had a discussion of integrity, and then we have had a discussion of tolerance, and then trustworthiness. Question, they've asked the 3 values, and you have discussed the 3 values. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, distinguish between code of ethics and code of conduct with suitable examples, right? So let's see the code of ethics first, and then we'll talk about the code of conduct, and we'll see the examples also. So code of ethics. Code of ethics is that the broad principles based on these broad principle, organization is established. In a simple example, if I have to give judiciary, the tagline of judiciary, it is Satyamev Jayate. Here the principle is truth. The entire institution of judiciary, it is based on one value system, that is the truth. So everybody who is working in judiciary, they have to, it is obligation on them, they have to uphold the value of truth. At the same time, it is not only the judiciary, even the stakeholders. If I am a litigant, if I am a party of some particular case, then I also should uphold this particular aspect, particular value. So ultimately, code of ethics is the principles on which particular organization is based, particular organization is working about. So it is going to guide these are general and core ethical values designed to help professional conduct, and this is going to apply everybody in an organization, and also external stakeholders also. Here in the judiciary, external stakeholders are the litigants or the people involved in it. And if I am called for any evidence, if I am called for some for litigation related issue, then I have to uphold this value also. This is obligation on me also. This is code of ethics. Usually this code of ethics, it talks about what is the mission of an organization and what is the vision of an organization. So it talks about mission of an organization, and it talks about core value, core ethical principles of an organization. And these ethical principles, these are applicable to all the levels of organization, all the levels of institution. So it is going to standards, every people, whoever working in this particular institution, organization, department, they have to uphold this particular value system. So this is the professional value of every individual who is working in an organization, right? And The entire organization, this is the base. Here in the judiciary, truth is the base. Satyamev Jayate. So ethical principle based on organization core values here. And another aspect here is, if there are any problems in the organization, in the institution, in a department, ministry, ultimately, how do you approach the problem? If there are any problems in an organization, it is that truth. You have to uphold this value. Through that, you are going to solve the problems. Right? This is with respect to code of ethics. All these are positive things. It's fine. You understood that these are the core principles of an organization or institution. Fine. But there are negatives also. What are the negatives? The first and foremost negative is that these code of ethics, these are very abstract in nature. These are very generalistic in nature. And then it is very difficult to enforce. See, how do you enforce the value, this kind of truth, honesty, integrity? You can mention in your mission, you can mention it as a value of judiciary, but how do you enforce it? So that is, it has not been mentioned in code of ethics. It has been just set as the important value system of this organization, but enforcement is not mentioned with respect to code of ethics. Enforcement is there with respect to code of conduct, but not with respect to code of ethics. Right, we'll talk about code of conduct also. Here enforcement is very difficult, and another thing is, these are very subjective in nature. See, you know the concept of the ethical relativism. So values are very abstract in nature, very subjective in nature. It means that for me, I see this particular value in some perspective, and for you, you see the same value system from a different perspective. So these are subjective in nature, and every different individual can give different interpretation. This is another problem with respect to the code of ethics. The top level, they are seeing from a different perspective, and at the lower level, clerical level, they are seeing this same particular value from a different perspective. And if there are any emergency situation, these values are not going to give the solution. So this is another criticism with respect to code of ethics. So ultimately, code of ethics is basic principles. Based on these principles, particular organization is based on. Particular organization is working to ensure these basic principles. So this is code of ethics. And the next one is code of conduct. Code of conduct, usually in a simple term, if I have to tell, code of conduct is the do's and don'ts in an organization. So what you should do, what you should not do, that is mentioned under code of ethics. So these are set of principles, and these principles, they are going to control your behavior. They are going to tell you what to do and what not. In a simple way, take an example of judiciary only. The core principle is truth. Truth is the core principle, core value of a judiciary. But code of conduct talks about what you should do and what you should not do. What you should do, what you should not do. It is that you are not supposed to give the media briefing, and you are not supposed to take any gifts. You are not supposed to involve in anything which is remotely related to the corrupt activities. See, these are the do's and don'ts. Usually, this is going to guide the day-to-day behavior. Their ultimate, the value system of an organization, that is represented by code of ethics. But here, code of conduct, it will tell you how you should behave in a particular environment, in a particular setup. And usually code of ethics, it is like some outcomes are anticipated, and based on these anticipated outcomes, they come up with code of conduct. Usually the government has, in a public administration, in a district commissioner's office, they have anticipated that there will be corruption. So they have come up with the rules against the corruption, and there will be some kind of political favoritism. So they have come up with the rules against political favoritism. So it is, they have anticipated something, and for that anticipation, they have established some norms. Here, code of conduct are designed to anticipate and prevent certain specific type of behavior. If there is a conflict of interest, code of conduct gives you the direction to avoid the conflict of interest. And there is a political favoritism, and code of conduct tells you that how to avoid the favoritism. So there is a bribery, corruption related activity, it gives the guidelines to avoid the bribery or the corruption related activities. So this is kind of restricted. But when you think of code of ethics, this is abstract, this is very subjective. But here, this is kind of restricted, and it is more of normative in nature. See, these are the basic understanding of code of ethics. We talked about it. It is the set of principles that is going to control your behavior, right? And this is about specific behavior regarding do's and don'ts and what are accepted and unaccepted behaviors of an individual, and ultimately it is designed to anticipate that these things might happen in an organization. So they have come up with what you should do when you anticipate, when you come in front of these kind of situations. Right, this is code of conduct, and there are some criticisms also there. What are the criticisms? I told you that these are do's and don'ts, and these are enumerated based on anticipating something in the organization. But the thing is, can you anticipate each and every situation? Can you anticipate each and every consequences? This is very difficult. It is impossible to predict every possible situation that might arise in an organization. It is impossible. So, and every single time when you experience these kind of thing, you are going to add one more code of conduct. See, this is another criticism with respect to code of conduct. And another thing is, this is restrictive in nature. This is telling you, you should not do it, you should not do it, you should not follow this. It is more restrictive in nature. It is not guiding your behavior, rather than it is restricting your behavior. Whereas in code of ethics, it is guiding your behavior. See, you have to uphold the truth. So it is guiding your behavior. It is upholding the value system. It is upholding the virtue. But here, it is restricting your actions. So it is restrictive rather than affirmative obligation. And another thing is, it is very complex in nature, because it is impossible to come up with every situation, and also for each and every situation a lot of subclauses will be there and lot of exceptions will be there. So again, these are some of the criticism with respect to code of conduct. So we understood code of ethics and code of conduct. So code of ethics, judiciary, law, truth, Satyameva Jayate. So that is the basic principle, core principle. And code of conduct, you're not supposed to give media briefing, you're not supposed to take any gift, you're not supposed to involve in anything related to the corruption or bribe, these kind of things. So this is the difference between code of ethics and code of conduct. And let us talk about one more example, that code of ethics in public administration. You know that second ARC report. In the second ARC, the 10th report, ethics in governance, and in that 10th report they talked about foundational values of civil services. It includes integrity and compassion, empathy, dedication, commitment. All these things they have talked about it. See, these you can consider it as a code of ethics. Integrity, compassion, empathy, dedication, these are considered as a code of ethics. And code of conduct is do's and don'ts, what you should do and what you should not behave. Ultimately it controls your behavior. And code of conduct, it is mentioned in the Civil Services Conduct Rules of 1964. See, the ARC, it talks about code of ethics, and the Central Civil Services Conduct Rules of 1964, it talks about code of conduct. See, this is the difference. And also examples, judiciary also you can give an example, and this also, this is a real example. You can give code of ethics, ARC, and the Civil Service Conduct Rule in 1964. This is code of conduct. So this is with respect to this particular question, that is distinguish between code of ethics and code of conduct with suitable examples, right? Let's move to the next one. The next question is, what is meant by public interest, and what are the principles and procedure to be followed by civil servant in public interest? So let's talk about, there are three dimensions you have to answer in this question. The first is public interest, and then you have to talk about principles that civil servant has to follow, and what are the procedures civil servant has to follow. So let's dissect in a three perspective. The first, talk about public interest. What is the public interest? Public interest is that my commitment towards the public. So what is my commitment? My commitment is welfare of the citizen. My commitment is social well-being. So ultimately, whatever I do, I am committed to the welfare of the public. So here in that welfare, my actions, my decisions, and even my intentions, it should lead to the social welfare. So ultimately it should lead to the goodness of society. See, one thing you have to keep in mind, keep in your mind that of course public interest is goodness of society. Ultimately my actions, my decision, my intentions, they are aiming for a goodness of society. But here in that process of achieving goodness of society, my priority should be given to my professional duties rather than my personal duties. So priority to public duties. It is not my personal interest. Priority has to be given to the public duties. And ultimately, how exactly goodness of the society, what exactly this is going to lead to? There will be shared responsibilities and there will be shared benefits. So this is with respect to public interest. So me being a civil servant, I have to ultimately aim for a welfare of the citizen. So here my action, decision and my intentions, it should focus on a goodness of a society, well-being of a society. But in that journey, make sure that priority is to the public duties, priority is to my public responsibility, not for the personal interest. And eventually this should lead to the shared benefits and shared responsibility. Right? This is the first part of the question. Now let's talk about second aspect, that is principles of public services. So what are the principles should be followed by civil servant in public interest? So the first and foremost aspect is, me being a civil servant, I have to have this value of honesty, I have to have this value of integrity. When I have this honesty and integrity, eventually I will develop commitment. My commitment is towards public cause. So adherence to the value of honesty and integrity, eventually this will lead to the commitment for what? Commitment to the public cause. So this is the first principle. And the second principle is, I have to maintain accountability and transparency. Why do I need this accountability and transparency? Because if I maintain this transparency and accountability factor, I can remove the corrupt related activity in the administration. Right? This is the second principle. And the third principle is, I have to show the empathy and compassion. And this empathy and compassion should be shown to the vulnerable section, weaker section of the society. Ultimately, see, they are the priority. If you uplift vulnerable sections, if you uplift the weaker section of a society, eventually this will lead to the welfare of the society. Right? Third principle. And the fourth principle is that objectivity and impartiality should be there in my decision making. There should not be any prejudice, there should not be any bias in my decision making. When I have objectivity and impartiality, this should be followed in implementation of policies. Policy formulation happens at the political leadership level, and I have to implement this policy. And in that implementation of policy, if I have objectivity and impartiality, then implementation of policy, this will lead to the public welfare. Right? These are the principles followed by civil servants in public services, public administration. Right? And the next part of the question, it asks about procedures. Procedures to be followed. Principles we have talked about. Next we'll see the procedures that need to be followed. So what is the procedure? I am a civil servant and my approach is the people welfare. So in order to give that welfare to the citizen, their involvement is very much necessary. So here I have to the procedure, I have to follow the citizen centric approach in public administration, right? And I have to uphold the rule of law. There is no compromise. You cannot compromise with the legal aspect, rule of law, because in the rule, in the established regulation, constitutional morality, already the aspects of equality, aspects of tolerance, it's already been inculcated there. So following the rule of law with no compromise is another procedure I have to follow. If I am a civil servant, if I am a public servant, this is my obligation. And the third is that I have to prioritize whom? Weaker section, prioritize the vulnerable sections of the society. Because if they get up necessary support, if their lives are uplifted from poverty, from all these miseries, ultimately we see the national development. So priority should be given to the weaker and vulnerable section of the. So this does not mean that you are not compromising with equality. Don't confuse that you are giving unequal treatment to the weaker and vulnerable section. No, you are not compromising with equality. It is an affirmative action. Right? And finally, uphold the democratic value, ideals of democracy, democratic ethos, and implement the, see, if you uphold this democratic ethos, democratic ideals, it will lead to the social justice, it will lead to the social equity. So these are the procedures you have to follow as a civil servant, right? Very simple question, straightforward question. Actually, in the 2018, there is a 2018 paper, and this paper is more public administration related concepts. A lot of questions are related to public administration. If you look at the previous year question papers, the core concepts of ethics were a lot, but here in this particular paper, they have changed pattern a little bit. 70% of all these questions in this paper, somewhere it is related to the public administration only. We have a 7th chapter, I think 6th or 7th chapter, ethics in public administration. Most of these questions somewhere related to that particular chapter only. Usually UPSC, this is what UPSC do, it changes the pattern unexpectedly once in a while, and this is also the different perspective. Questions are from public administration perspective here. And let's move to the next one. The next question, it is regarding Right to Information Act, RTA. Right to Information Act is not all about citizens empowerment alone. It essentially redefines the concept of accountability. Usually RTI, it means that I have certain right to ask for a public information. So it is mandatory on government to disclose public information. So disclosure of information under RTI. See, if I get that information, then there will be, it is going to lead to the transparency, and because there is a transparency, I can ask questions. It is going to enhance the accountability factor. See, if I am asking a question, then this, I have certain right. So I have certain right and I have certain privilege. So I can ask the government. So it is empowering the citizen. So here what happens, Right to Information Act, it is empowerment, right? It is because I have certain rights and privilege, I can ask you, I can ask the public information. So I have this right. This is fine. But this is not alone. It is essentially redefines the concept of accountability. First part, how exactly this is going to empower me. And the second part, you have to explain how exactly this is redefining the accountability. Let's talk about the first aspect. First aspect, I told you that I have the rights and privilege to ask for the information. With that information, I am going to get how exactly funds are utilized, public funds are utilized. I am going to get how exactly decisions are made in the administration or at the government level, how exactly decisions are taken, or I am going to get information regarding how exactly services are delivered to the people. So this is empowering me. I have this right. Because of this right, I am getting complete information regarding what exactly government is doing. Right? This is empowering me. This is first aspect of the question. Usually when this happens, the citizen participation happens and I can ask the question. Now if I am not satisfied, I can also go for a grievance redressal. So there is a grievance redressal because I am not happy with your information, and there is an obligation on you that you have to give me a timely response. I am demanding answer. This is, I am empowered. Here citizen, me being a citizen, I am empowered because of RTA. This is first part of the question. And the next part of the question, it essentially redefines the concept of accountability. Usually what is accountability? Accountability is answerability. Accountability is liability of my actions. I have taken a decision. Me being a civil servant, I have taken a decision. Now if there is an accountability factor, I am answerable to my higher authorities. I am answerable to the people, because the aspect of accountability is there. Accountability in general, it is being answerable for one's action, being liable for one's action. I have taken a decision, I've done some action, I've taken some decision. Now I am answerable for my decision to other people. So that is accountability. Now how exactly this is redefining the accountability? Let's see this particular aspect. See, usually what happens, I told you that because of RTI, I can ask any public information. So if anybody involved in taking that decision, there is a direct accountability. Before that, what used to happen, there is an organization, there is some kind of government institution. That government institution, it is accountable to the ministry. because since there is no transparency, I cannot ask any question. Usually this institution, this is going to provide report to the ministry, and ministry is going to go through with the report. So accountability is with respect to ministry. Ultimately ministry's accountability with the ministry's accountability is with respect to citizens, it is with respect to people. So there is an indirect accountability with these kind of public institution. Now there is a direct accountability. Now I can file an RTA, I can get this information, and if I am not happy with that information, I can refile, I can file a complaint against you. So the direct accountability. Before there was an indirect accountability with respect to all these government organizations, government bodies, government agencies. Now there is a factor of direct accountability. Now each and every decision the government employee take, he has to make sure that he is not crossing any boundaries. So he is taking a decision based on the legal procedure. So there is a direct accountability. And another aspect is that if I file an RTI, I have to get responsible reply from them. They have to give me response. So there is a mandatory obligation. So again, there is an accountability factor on the state. So I have to get the responsible reply. So even for the individual queries, they are taken very seriously. So this is another way of ensuring accountability. And the next is section 4 of RTI. Section 4 of RTI talks about suo motu disclosure of information by public agency. So this is also going to emphasize the accountability factor. See, it is mandatory on certain government public organizations that they have to display this information on their website here. So by doing this, suo motu, the accountability factor has been implemented on this organization. So section 4 of RTI mandates suo motu disclosure of important information. In general, there is an accountability factor on this organization, right? And then before that, there is one organization. If something goes wrong, there is a collective accountability. So everybody in an organization, they are considered responsible, liable. This was the condition. Now from collective accountability, it has moved to the individual accountability. Even small decision taken by whoever, whether it is a joint commissioner, or even at the clerical level, the individual accountability has increased because of RTI. So it is redefining the concept of accountability here. And then now the NGO, they can file an RTI, they can ask the question. Media, civil society organization, and me being an individual person, I have also have this privilege to ask the question. Now accountability factor has been enhanced to a very large extent. Anybody can file an RTI, anybody can question you. Now you are accountable to a wider audience, right? And finally, the real-time scrutiny of government is happening because of RTI, and in turn scrutiny happens. It means that you are accountable to your actions, you are answerable to your action. So ultimately, if you look at this, the concept of accountability has been redefined from individual responsibility to collective responsibility, from individual accountability to the indirect accountability to the direct accountability, and you are accountable to the very large audience now, NGO, media, civil society organization, and even if a 10 years old kid files an RTI, it is your responsibility, you have to give the answer to them. Then it is at minimum amount 10 rupees, you can file an RTI petition, you can get an information. So it has redefined the concept of accountability, right? So this is with respect to this particular question. And finally, way forward. Way forward is that, see, RTI, it is enhancing the aspect of transparency, it is fine. It is enhancing the aspect of accountability, it is fine. But there are some drawbacks also. Drawbacks are, you are misusing the RTI. You have this right. There is a aspect of citizens empowerment, but you should not misuse that for wrong reason. You filing frivolous unnecessary petitions in order to trouble the administration, these all things are happening. So how do you deal with that? There is a way forward. Way forward is that you should have an independent committee within an organization, or maybe at taluk level or district level, go for these kind of independent committees, and they are going to decide whether this application is genuine or not, or whether this is a frivolous unwanted petition. So that should be taken care of. And some of the people usually manipulate the RTA, so make sure that these independent committees, they take care of these particular aspects. And another aspect is that, see, because of these frivolous, unwanted, unnecessary litigations and applications, the honest officers, they feel kind of harassment. So it is responsibility of a government to balance that. There is one side, there is a transparency, another side, this transparency should not lead to the harassment. So make sure that you are not using this as a tool to harass the honest officers. And another thing is focus on capacity building here, and ethical and responsible applications. Me being a citizen of the country, it is obligation on me that I have to be a responsible citizen, and if I have to showcase my responsibilities, make sure that I should not misuse, I should not manipulate the RTI provisions. These are some of the way forward at the end, right? So this is with respect to this particular question. RTI, the act is not at all about citizens empowerment, it is essentially redefines the concept of accountability, right? So let's move to the next question. Question is that what is meant by conflict of interest, and illustrate with examples the difference between potential and the actual and potential conflict of interest. So what exactly conflict of interest is? Conflict of interest, I am a civil servant, I have official duties, and if I am compromising my official duties for my personal interest, that leads to the conflict of interest. So here I'm not exactly, it's not that already I have misused my private interest or public interest, official duty for my private interest. It is that it appears to my professional interest is compromised for my public interest. So conflict of interest is a situation where public servant personal interest appears to improperly influence their official duty. So this is with respect to conflict of interest. And conflict of interest, there are three types of conflict of interest: actual conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest, and there is one more, that is perceived conflict of interest. There are three conflict of interest. The actual conflict of interest, here the compromise between personal interest, private interest, it has happened, almost it has happened, that is actual conflict of interest. And the potential conflict of interest, that there could be, here it could be my personal interest could influence my professional duties, right? That is potential conflict of interest. There is a potential to influence my public duties. My personal interest has potential to influence my personal duties. And then we have a perceived. Perceived, it is more of in future. But here in the question, they have asked about very precisely asked about difference between actual and potential conflict of interest. So you can ignore the perceived conflict of interest. So let's focus on actual conflict of interest, and let's focus on potential conflict of interest here. So actual conflict of interest, I told you that here my decision, I am a public servant, and my personal interest, it is influencing my personal public interest. My personal interest, it is influencing my official duties here. So my personal interest, it is directly influencing my professional actions, and it is influencing my decisions. And if my personal interest is influencing my professional duties, then my judgment will be biased, my outcomes will be compromised, right? As an example, I am an IAS officer, and government has given me certain amount to build a social infrastructure. I have decided to build a hospital in particular rural area. Now in order to build that infrastructure, I have called for a tender. So people have applied contract that in order to get this particular project, and in that tender, in that contract, one of my family members also applied to get that tender. Now I am the deciding factor, I am a district administration, I am going to decide who is going to get this contract, and in that process, my family member, they have applied for the contract here, they have applied for the tender. So now I am giving this contract to my family members. I have decided that I am going to give this contract to my family members. This is actual conflict of interest, that I am compromising my professional duties for my personal gain. Here the personal gain is what my family members are going to get the contract. So this is actual conflict of interest. Here what happens, there is a direct influence on my decision making. I can see that it is happening. See, I am a bank manager, and one of my family members, they have applied for the loan, and I am granting loan for my family members. Here I am compromising with my value system, I am granting loan to my family members only. Actual conflict of interest, right? And then I am compromising objectivity. Here I have given contract to my family members, but objectivity, the objectivity is that there should not be any bias, there should not be any prejudice in my decision making. But now I have compromised with my objectivity here, right? And there is biased judgment. And if you want to correct this conflict of interest, it needs immediate approach. You have to apply immediate corrective action at that point of time. So this is with respect to actual conflict of interest. Now next is potential conflict of interest. Potential conflict of interest, I told you that there could be, it means that my private interest, my personal interest could influence my official duties. So here as an example, I am a director of industries and commerce, and a file from a company A, it has come to me that I have to take a decision with respect to company A. Now it is my obligation that I have to take a decision. But at the same time, I, in my personal capacity, in my demat account, I am holding 20 lakhs worth of share of this particular company. So if I take any positive action, share price is going to rise and I am going to get the profit in my demat account. If I take any very strict action, any negative action that is going to negatively impact the company A shares, then I am going to make a loss. My account, it is going to make a loss. So here my personal interest, it is influencing my private interest. So my official duty, my personal interest, it is impacting my official duty, my professional duty. So it could be, I am not yet, there is no corruption happened yet, but it could be, there could be influence here. So here what happens, there is a potential to influence the decision, this is there, and again the risk of bias and prejudice is there. But the main difference between potential conflict of interest and the actual conflict of interest is that there in actual conflict of interest you need immediate response. You need immediate response to correct the thing. But here you get some time. You can mitigate it before it happens. There it already happens. You awarded contract to your family members. So there is a risk already there. But here you get some time and you can mitigate this factor. So that is the difference between actual conflict of interest and the potential conflict of interest, right? And finally, let's see the way forward also. Way forward is that how do you deal with conflict of interest? That is the way forward. Main thing is that when you have a personal interest and the professional duties, what option you have to choose? Obviously your professional interest. So priority should be given to the public interest. Whenever there is a conflict of interest, you focus on the public interest. Based on public interest, you make the decision. Then you can eliminate this conflict of interest. Or else, you support the transparency. When there is a transparency, there is an accountability factor. So people are going to involve in that. Because of that, there will be public scrutiny. So maintain that transparency, and this transparency is going to lead to the public scrutiny. And when there is a public scrutiny, they are going to ask you question. So you make sure that personal interests are not entertained. So because of maintaining transparency also, you can handle conflict of interest, right? And then see, you know that this is not the first time conflict of interest is arising. It has already happened, and we know that these things happens. But in order to control these things, you need to have an independent oversight regulatory mechanism. So develop this independent oversight regulatory mechanism in administration to deal with conflict of interest. What exactly it does? It come up with certain standards, certain norms. You follow these standards and norms whenever you face with conflict of interest. That is also another way of approaching conflict of interest. And then we have a foundational values: integrity, probity, all these things, trustworthiness, impartiality. Apply these things in your conduct. When you apply impartiality, definitely you are not going to award this contract to your family members based on the relation. So you are going to apply you are going to give the contract based on the value, based on which one is the best for public welfare. So when you inculcate these foundational values, they are going to, it is easier to solve the conflict of interest. Again, it helps to solve the conflict of interest. And then already conflict of interest happened. There is a situation, it's there. Now how do you manage it? You have to manage it. How do you deal with it? First and foremost is that you have to register. If there is a conflict of interest, you have to register with your colleagues or higher authorities. You register that there is a conflict of interest, and you recruit the third person. This third neutral person is going to take the decision. Either first register, or you recruit, or you let the higher authorities know that they are going to take a decision, or there is a, you recruit the third neutral person and neutral person is going to take a decision, or ultimately you can relinquish. Relinquish is let it go your private interest, let it go your personal interest. Your family member, family member is applying for contract, and now tell your family members to take back the application. So relinquish your personal interest. So these are the ways to manage your conflict of interest, right? So the question is with respect to what exactly conflict of interest. We had a discussion regarding what is meant by conflict of interest, and then illustrate with examples difference between actual and potential conflict of interest. That also we had a discussion, and finally we ended up with way forward. Way forward, it talks about how to deal with conflict of interest, right? Let's move to the next one. In looking for the people to hire you, you look for three qualities. And what are the three qualities? Integrity, intelligence and energy. And if they do not have the first, it means that the candidate don't have integrity, but he has other two, intelligence and energy. And if they do not have the first, the other two will kill you. A candidate has intelligence and energy, but the candidate does not have the integrity factor. This is very dangerous. This is going to kill you if you have only energy and intelligence. This is what statement is. This statement is given by Warren Buffett. Right, let's talk about this statement, and you have to implement in the present day scenario. And I told you that the standard procedure, dissect the statement. Whenever this kind of statement comes, you have to dissect the statement and substantiate your point of view with examples. So here also, see, let's dissect the statement talking about three qualities: integrity, intelligence and energy. What is integrity? We had a discussion in the first question also. Integrity, it is the value of values. There is an internal accountability. Integrity here from a perspective of perspective of an organization, from a perspective of public administration. Integrity is that there is a strict adherence to the rules and regulation. There is particular company has certain rules, regulation, and integrity. If I am working, if I have the value of integrity, then I am going to adhere to the rules and regulation. So honest and sincere adherence to the established laws, that is integrity. And what is intelligence? Intelligence is the cognitive abilities, my cognitive abilities and problem solving skills, and to take an informed decision, that is intelligence. And what is energy? Energy is being enthusiastic, energy having the driving force to achieve something. So it is the drive to take decision and ambition and to take initiative. So these are the three aspects that is mentioned in the question, and we discussed about three aspects, right? The next part of the question tells that if you have only these two, this is very dangerous. Now let's dissect this and let's see what exactly the quote talking about, right? See, intelligence, you have intelligence, you have intelligence and energy. When you have this intelligence, problem solving skills, cognitive ability, all these things, you want to achieve something, and you can achieve something because of this intelligence. At the same time, you have that energy, the driving force to achieve this goal. Fine. Eventually will lead to the personal efficiency. It will lead to the personal efficiency. See, in an administration or in an organization, this is not going to transform into a social efficiency. I want to be happy, I want to make money, so because of intelligence and energies, I will fulfill it. So there will be personal efficiency. It will not going to transform into a public efficiency or organizational efficiency. See, I am a doctor, I am very good at analyzing, I am very good at giving treatment, I am very good at diagnosis because I am intelligent and I have that energy. See, what happens if I don't have that integrity? What exactly I am going to do is, I know that what exactly this person problem is. Now I am going to write unnecessary test, I am going to tell him to do unnecessary procedures, I am going to write down unnecessary medical treatment also, unnecessary tablet also. Why am I doing this? Because I don't have integrity and I want to make money. I am focusing only on my personal efficiency. So by doing this, you are playing with the life of a person, you are playing with the lives of a patients, So here it is very dangerous to another person. For you it is personal efficiency, but it is not transforming into organizational efficiency, it is not transforming into a social efficiency. So this is very dangerous. And at the same time, you have only energy and intelligence, you can easily be manipulated. See, you are very intelligent scientist, and they offer you money and they can manipulate you to make some anti social element, maybe an atom bomb or nuclear bomb. By doing this, there is no integrity, you are going to do them, and eventually this is going to be disastrous for the country, disastrous for the world. So the outcome is harmful to the people, harmful to the planet, harmful to the society. So this is what happens when you don't have that integrity. So you are happy having the short term benefits, you are not thinking about long term benefits, you are not thinking about social efficiency, all you focus is on personal efficiency. And one more example, during the COVID time, a certain company was manufacturing these COVID vaccines, and a lot of criticism was there that this company is not revealing the drug test information, it is not giving publicizing the outcome of all these drug tests and what exactly they have conducted and what is the outcome of these COVID vaccines and all. See, ultimately what happens, the company has intelligence, company has energy. See, all these private companies, they work for the profit, I agree with that, but at the same time, when you focus only on personal efficiency, what is happening, you are compromising with the public health. You are providing vaccines, not undertaking proper drug tests, not analyzing the outcomes of your vaccine, you are giving these vaccines to the society and people are taking it, and eventually this is disaster for the society, eventually you are playing with public health. So when you don't have integrity, this is going to be disaster, the outcome is going to be disaster, whether it is you consider this as in politics, the same thing, outcome will be disaster, whether you consider in corporate, outcome will be disaster, and even in the public administration also, even in the governance also, the outcome is going to be disastrous if there is no integrity. So if there is an integrity, whatever the outcome, it is going to be sustainable, and your outcome, it is going to be inclusive. So ultimately integrity leads to the well-being of the society, right? This is with respect to this particular quote. And what happens if there is no integrity, you're going to compromise with code of conduct, you're going to compromise with code of ethics. And this code of conduct, code of ethics, it talks about moral value. Code of ethics talks about moral values, moral principles. Code of conduct talks about what to do and what not, do's and don'ts. We had a discussion in the second question. See, when you compromise with these things, ultimately you focus on personal efficiency only. So this is what this particular quote is talking about, right? So we had an example of a pharmaceutical company, we had an example of doctor, and one more example you can take as artificial intelligence also. Artificial intelligence, see, if you have intelligence, if you have that energy, you can manufacture all these artificial intelligence using videos and all, and these videos, they can disturb the communal harmony. So it is very dangerous for the society. But if you have this integrity, you use this artificial intelligence for some constructive purposes, some positive aspect of the society, it will lead to the positive development of a society. So this is what this particular question is talking about. So question is, so this is what, in looking for the people to, I am looking for the people to hire, you look for three, in looking for people to hire, you look for three qualities: integrity, intelligence, energy. And if they don't have the first, if they don't have the integrity, the other two will kill you. So this is what the statement is. You dissect the statement and develop the answer, right? And also examples are must and should give the examples. So let's move to the next question. The question is that in doing a good thing, everything is permitted. In doing a good thing, everything is permitted, which is not prohibited expressly or by clear implication, right? and examine the statement with suitable examples in the context of public servant discharging his or her duty. See, from a large perspective, if you look at the statement in doing a good thing, what exactly this is talking about? Outcome, consequence, right? It is talking about consequence. If the consequences are good, then everything is permitted, you can do anything. So it is end based approach, but extended, which is not prohibited expressly by clear implication. It is talking about law should not put any restriction. So there is an aspect of means based approach is also there. So ultimately the statement is talking about combination of, it's a combination of ends and means based approach. This is what the statement is talking about. It is combination of ends and means based approach. You want to do something good, outcome is positive, yes, you can follow anything, but make sure that whatever you follow, there is no explicit restriction on those things. It is talking about methods also. So combination of ends based approach and means based approach, and you have to answer it, you have to see how exactly you are going to implement these things in public administration. That is the question, right? So here, see, ultimately in public administration, what is the ultimate objective of public administration? It is the public trust, it is the public welfare. So ultimately you talk about public trust, public welfare. So in order to achieve this public trust and public welfare, you can take any step, but make sure that your actions are not restricted by law. So actions are not restricted by law. So this is what this particular statement is talking about. You are a public servant in public administration, yes, you can take any step, but make sure that it is going to lead to the public welfare. But in that journey, whatever the actions you take, whatever the decisions you make, that should not be restricted by, explicitly restricted by any law. Ultimately, this is talking about one aspect, that is flexibility. So the entire statement is talking about the flexibility. Usually in public administration, the concept of rigidity is there. When there is a rigidity, you have a lot of discretionary powers. See, it is talking about rigidity, and this rigidity, it is going to impact the positive outcome. So this is going to impact the positive outcome, because you have a lot of discretionary power, and in that discretionary power, when there is a rigidity, you cannot go for any innovative approach, you cannot go for any creative approach. So a lot of discretionary powers are there. Lot of discretionary powers are there. In those discretionary powers, when you don't have the flexibility, when you have this rigidity will ensure there is no innovation, there is no creativity in solving public problems. So while solving public problem, you want innovation, you want creative approaches, but this rigidity, it is going to restrict it. So because of that, you are not going to implement any innovation in solving the public problem, and ultimately this is going to impact the positive outcome. So ultimately what this statement is trying to say is, you can go for these kind of innovation, you can go for these kind of creative approaches to address this public problem, but make sure that everything is within legal boundaries, everything is within ethical boundaries. So you can do anything as long as everything is within legal and ethical boundaries. So this will help to solve the public problem. So you can implement the innovative approach, you can implement the creative approach. So you have the discretionary power, so go through with the innovation and implementation. So aspect is, there should be flexibility. If there is a rigidity, this is going to impact this, and outcome will not be positive. So this is what this particular statement is talking about. And when you have this flexibility, when you have the flexibility, so when you have this flexibility, it helps to solve ethical dilemma. It helps to solve conflict of interest in administration. So flexibility is very much important. Ultimately, the entire question, it is talking about flexibility versus rigidity in public administration. And in order to achieve the good thing, you need combination of end-based approach as well as the means-based approach. So ultimately focus on positive outcome, but make sure that the method you follow, it is not crossing legal boundary, it is not crossing ethical boundary. So that is what the entire aspect of this particular question. So let's go to the question here. Let's dissect the good thing. Let's dissect the question. The question is talking about in doing good thing, and what exactly good thing in public administration. Good thing is welfare of the citizen. Good thing social well-being. So doing a good thing is upliftment of weaker section, vulnerable section. So in turn, you're working towards social justice, you're working towards social equality. So that is a good thing, and not prohibited expressly or by clear implication. It means that whatever the decision and actions you take, that must in compliance with law, with regulations, with rules. It should not go against whatever the actions you take. It should not go against the constitutional morality. So this is what the question is talking about. And ultimately, what is the advantage of it? What are the use of following this methodology? The first and foremost aspect is, I told you that the concept of rigidity and flexibility. This gives the flexibility, and this flexibility in the decision making. And when you have this flexibility, if there are any unexpected challenges, you can address it efficiently. Me being a public servant, if I have this flexibility, I can address unexpected challenges in an efficient way. This is one thing. And second thing is, this is going to support the creativity, this is going to support the innovation. When there is a creativity, innovation, it is required both in policy implementation, policy formulation. When there is a creativity and innovation in policy implementation and policy formulation, there will not be any this is going to solve the public problems. At the same time, when you have this thing, it is going to address the policy paralysis also. So when there is a flexibility in policy implementation and policy formulation, you can address the policy for paralysis also, and it supports creativity and innovation in public purpose also. And finally, the main aspect the question is talking about rigidity, that is excessive procedural rigidity, the iron framework, that is what it is talking about. And excessive procedure, this rigidity, this can be avoided if we follow this approach, the combination of ends and means. If we follow this, we can address this excessive procedural rigidity. Ultimately, rigidity and flexibility. So you have that flexibility, make sure that your flexibility, it is not crossing ethical and legal boundary. That is what the question is talking about. So when you have that flexibility, so it helps unexpected challenges can be addressed, and it helps to solve the public problems with the help of creativity and innovation, and even policy paralysis can be removed, and ultimately the excessive procedural rigidity can be addressed. So this is with respect to this particular question. So you can go through with the question again, and let's move to the next question. Question is with regard to the morality of actions. One view is that means is the paramount importance, and other view is that end justify the means. Which view do you think is more appropriate? Justify your answer. Question is very simple. One side there is a means based approach, another side there is an end based approach. Which one do you think is the best for administration? This is what, which one do you justify, and you have to give the reasons for it. This is the question is that. So let's talk about end based, means based approach first, and then we'll talk about the end based approach first, and finally you have to give the your option, that which one you are going to choose. See, let's talk about it, then we'll talk about the which one I am going to choose. The first aspect here is that So with regard to the morality of action, one view is means is the paramount importance. So let's talk about means is of paramount importance. So means is that the way you achieve things, the way you take a decision. See, if you make a decision based on the virtues, based on the values like integrity, truthfulness, trustworthiness, all these things, compassion, empathy, then that is considered as ethical. If your decisions are, if your actions, if your decisions are based on values, then your actions are considered as ethical, your decisions are considered as ethical. So if I am taking a decision, and in that decision whatever the method I am following, that is taken into the consideration for means based approach here. And here my actions, it should be based on values like integrity, fairness, truthfulness, and it mainly focuses on the duties. It is called deontology. It means the duty. I have certain duty towards other human being, towards society, towards the nation. So if my actions are based on this duty, I am focusing on this duty in my actions, in my decisions, then my conduct is considered as ethical, right? And another thing is, whatever decision I make, so the focus is inherent nature of action itself, the intentions behind. So focus is on the intention, on what intention I am taking this action. So it is based on values, what exactly my decisions are based on. So based on that means approach, this is based on these aspects, means based approach. And we have a end based approach. See, usually in a simple thing, if I have to say, tell I want to build an orphanage, and in that orphanage I have taken a decision that I am going to build an orphanage. So how can I build an orphanage? I have my money, my own money, or I can take loan from somebody else to build an orphanage, or I can steal money to build an orphanage. In means based approach, the method I follow to build an orphanage, that matters. If I use my money, if I take a loan from somebody to build an orphanage, then my actions is focusing on certain positive aspects, then my actions are, my decisions are ethical. But if I am stealing money from somebody else and if I am building an orphanage, then my action is unethical, my actions are not based on these moral principles. So this is means based approach. And in the ends based approach, it mainly focuses on orphanage only. Orphanage is a good thing, so I am building an orphanage, outcome is good. So in ends based approach, these aspects are not going to be considered. The way I am going to build an orphanage, that is not considered. Only the building orphanage, my ultimate outcome, ultimate consequences, if the consequence is positive, rest of the things are ignored. So this is end based approach. So one side means based approach, another side we have end based approach. This is what explains means and end based approach. So question is talking about, we have means and end based approach, which one do you justify, which one do you consider is the best? So this is what in end based approach, what happens, ultimately your outcome should lead to the greater good, maximum benefit to the maximum number, the utilitarian concept. So it should lead to the greater good. And usually we think that I am building an orphanage, outcome will be positive, I predict positive outcome. So predictable outcome over rigid procedures. In the last question also we talked about rigidity and flexibility. So here in the end based approach, I am focusing on the outcome, I am not focusing on the rigid procedures. Whatever the procedure, ultimately I want to build an orphanage. Procedure I am not worried, I am only talking about outcome. And finally, focus on the maximizing the positive outcome. So this is with respect to means based approach, this is with respect to the end based approach. Right, now you have to take a stand now. What is your point of view here? See, personally I think that for some situations, for some context, means based approaches work fine, and for some situations, some context, end based approach work fine. So you cannot implement means based approach to all the situation, you cannot apply end based approach to all the situation. That balance has to be maintained, and it is up to your decision, it is up to your cognition that what approach you are going to use it. So but ultimately question demands one approach you have to justify. So I would suggest go for a means based approach. The reason is, I have to give the reason also, I have to justify. It has been mentioned in the question also that you have to justify your answer. So it means that I have to give reasons that why I am selecting means based approach. So uh, what I told you that the for every situation means based is not possible, for every situation end based approach is not possible. Based on the situation, based on the context, you have to apply it. But ultimately, since you have to focus, you have to choose one option. I am choosing a means based approach. The reason also I am giving you. The reason is that, see, I told that in end space approach you are focusing on the outcome, you are focusing on the consequences. Fine, you think that consequence will be positive, that is why I am doing. But can you predict every outcome? Is it possible? It's not possible. So it is difficult to predict all the outcomes and all the consequences. Now what do? You have to go for the means based approach. And the next thing is, see, I told you that I am going to build an orphanage. Building an orphanage, if I steal money from somebody else, is it ethical? Is it moral? It is not, because if I am stealing money from somebody else, I am causing a lot of suffering for that person. So in that journey of positive outcome, I am justifying violence, I am justifying atrocities. Is it right? Is it wrong? The same thing, even during the World War II, the USA dropped nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The outcome, what the outcome after dropping bomb, the USA justification is that we wanted to end the World War. So that is the reason we have dropped nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But can you justify that suffering that nuclear bomb caused? No, we cannot. So that is the reason that if I completely follow the end based approach, then I am going to justify atrocities, I am going to justify the violence. For that reason I am not happy with the end based approach for every consequences, every situation. And then, see, ultimately I want to build the orphanage. For that there are possibilities that I can compromise with rule of law. And the core objective or philosophy of public administration is you should never compromise with rule of law. So possibility of compromise of rule of law for the consequence ultimately I am talking about it. Here I am compromising for rule of law. And then usually means what happens, every step you take, whatever the methodology you follow, you make sure that you are following, your decisions are based on values, your decision based on virtues. So here what happens, if you follow the means based approach, you are going to follow the human right values, you are going to adhere to you are going to respect the dignity of individual. So in means based approach, this is considered as a categorical imperative. It means that dignity of individual is categorical imperative, you are not supposed to compromise with dignity. So this is categorical imperative. And ultimately there is no wrong way of doing right thing. I want to build an orphanage, but if I stealing money, it is not justifiable, I cannot justify it. So there is no wrong way of doing right thing. For all this reason, I feel that means based approach is comparatively better when you compare to the end based approach here, right? This would be sufficient for this question. And I forgot to give the example in the last question. This last question, doing a good thing, that the combination of means and end based, where example you can go for a demonetization. Demonetization, ultimately government thought, the intention of government is to curb the black money and to support the online transaction. So for that outcome is good, but whatever the steps they take, they took under the ambit of legal boundaries, they took under the ambit of ethical boundaries. Another is even COVID lockdown also, the intention is to curb the infection. So ultimate objective is positive, but in that journey they went for a lockdown, and even in this lockdown also, somewhere here is the example. So lockdown is also under the ambit of law and ethical boundaries. And even for disaster management also you need this approach only. You have to take a decision at that moment. For that also you can go through with that you focus on the outcome, but make sure that whatever the methods you follow, don't compromise with the means. So this is what this example is also talking about. I forgot to mention the example, so I came back and I talked about it. And then let's go to the next question. The next question is that, suppose the government of India is thinking of constructing a dam in a mountain valley bound by forest and inhabited by ethnic communities. What rational policies should it resort to in dealing with unforeseen contingencies, unforeseen emergencies. Ultimately, you have to come up with a rational policy to deal with. They are building a dam, and if there are any emergency, you should have that policy in place to deal with these kind of emergency. And question is asking about what are the rational policy you suggest. So let's see the rational policies. Ultimately, what I suggest is follow the utilitarian approach. Qualitative utilitarian is a maximum benefit to maximum number of people, but qualitative utilitarian is that you're not compromising with the justice aspect. Here they are building a dam, it's fine, this is going to help agriculture, this is going to help the drinking water problem, this is going to help the industries also. So primary, secondary, tertiary, all the sectors are going to get benefited from this dam, but at the same time there will be displacement, there will be rehabilitation. So make sure that you are not compromising with justice aspect of these people who are living in that region. You have to give the positive compensation should be very good, and the relocation, it should be voluntary basis, there should not be any forceful displacement. See, these kind of things you should keep in mind. So this is what mentioned in qualitative utilitarianism. Qualitative utilitarianism, it means that you're not compromising with justice aspect. Utilitarianism talk about maximum benefit to maximum number of people, but when it is qualitative utilitarianism, you are not compromising with justice aspect. So I would suggest policy should be based on qualitative utilitarianism. Right, now let's see the steps. What are the steps? Usually you need to have a contingency plan. If something wrong happens to the structure, you need to have contingency plan in place. So contingency plan should be there, and this plan should involve all the stakeholders, government and the people in that region, community and the experts, everybody should be there. They all should be involved in the making of this, outlining of this contingency plan. And government should provide necessary financial resources, whatever the financial resources to maintain safety of a dam, that should be provided. Government should allocate necessary financial resources to maintain the safety of a dam. And you can use technology and tools. Technology and tools like artificial intelligence, drone surveillance and satellite mapping, these things can also be used to deal with any kind of emergency. So this is also one among the rational policy under the contingency plan. And then have a early warning system, just like we have for tsunami, the same early warning system should be there. And also even for the cyclone, during the cyclonic disaster, to manage the cyclone disasters also, government have these early warning systems, also implement the same early warning system here also in this scenario. And this early warning system, that should detect any changes in structure of a dam. So this is also very much important. And you have to have a environment impact assessment, social impact assessment, and in that assessments, whatever the suggestions they give, whatever the procedures they suggest you to follow, especially for the government, for the local people and for the construction workers, everything has to be in place. You have to 100% adhere to these inputs, these standard given by environmental impact assessment and the social impact assessment. And grievance redressal mechanism should be there. See, if I have certain issues with respect to this structure, then there should be there should be a mechanism where I should go and register my complaint. If there is a strong grievance redressal mechanism, eventually this will support the community participation. When there is a community participation, there will be strong accountability on government to ensure the safety of this structure. So grievance redressal, effective and efficient grievance redressal is also very much important. And risk assessment is another aspect. Risk assessment is very much necessary once in a while, but make sure that this risk assessment, it is done by independent agency, not by government, not by anything related to the construction activity. The independent agencies that should do the risk assessment, and they should provide the report, and government should take action based on these reports also. And I talked about contingency plan in the beginning, and in that contingency plan involve the cultural and social inputs also. And you did the social impact assessment here, there also involve the cultural and social inputs, whatever, respect them and inculcate those aspects also under the contingency plan. And finally, necessary rehabilitation and sustainable alternative arrangements for the people, for the displaced people. This is also very much important. Don't ignore this also. So these are around 9 or 10 suggestions I have given with respect to contingency, dealing with contingency challenges, right? Let's move to the next one. It's a very direct question, so you have to answer it from ethics perspective, but somehow see, I try to answer it from ethics perspective, like persuasion, all these things, social influence, to inculcate all these things, just we use it in a case studies, but it was very much abstract in nature. There was no quality content, so I thought it to answer it from public administration perspective only. That is the reason more of public administration related answers you are seeing in the today's solved paper. Let's move to the next one. The next one is explain the process of solving ethical dilemma in public administration. So what is ethical dilemma first? Let's answer this, and then how do you resolve the ethical dilemma? What is ethical dilemma? Ethical dilemma is that you have to make a decision, and in that decision, whatever there are options in front of you, whatever the options you choose, ultimately you are compromising with one or other values. This is what ethical dilemma. You have to make a decision, and whatever there are options in front of you, and whatever the options you take, you are compromising with some value system. Some value conflict will be there. So there will be some value conflict in your decision, and every options in front of you, they are equally justiciable. So they are equally justiciable, all the alternatives you have. So whatever options you choose, you are compromising with one or other value system. This is another thing. And finally, outcomes of all these options in front of you, they have significant consequences. So they have significant consequences on stakeholders. Ultimately, whatever options you choose, you are going to compromise some or other value system, and this is eventually going to have some outcomes on all stakeholders. So this is ethical dilemma. You have to give an example also. Example, in general, especially public administration, the standard dilemma, ethical dilemma is that one side there is a development, another side there is a environment crisis, environment protection. This dilemma is very common. So example, economic development versus environmental protection. And another example you can give, the clash of personal values and the professional values. Personal values that you don't want to like, that truth is a virtue for you, but in a professional capacity, there are situations where there is no other option, you have to lie. So there is a clash of personal values versus professional values. This is also another example, you can write it in the examination. So ethical dilemma and the examples. Now how do you resolve the ethical dilemma? Very simple, straightforward points. First and foremost is that give priority to the legal aspect. If there are issues, you have to make a choice. If it is based on some legal aspect, you have to prioritize the legal aspect. So determine the, never compromise with the legal aspect. So there are options in front of you, and if any option is illegal, never support it, only go through with the legal aspect. This is one thing. And the second thing is, we know the foundational values. We have the foundational value of integrity, probity, empathy, compassion, all these things, foundational value, impartiality we have. You prioritize these foundational values. Compare the foundational values, you prioritize these foundational values. Whenever this ethical dilemma happens, based on your priorities, you take a decision. First priority to integrity, second priority to impartiality. Based on your priority, you have compared and you are prioritized foundational values. Based on this, you take a decision. That is also a feasible option. And then you compare these moral principles with laws. If there are any of these principles are in congruence with laws, select that principle. So that is another way of dealing with ethical dilemma. And then you differentiate between fact, assumptions and opinions. Especially in a decision making, you have to take an action, you have to make a decision. So there are facts, there are assumptions, there are opinions. Differentiate them. Take your actions based on facts, not on assumptions, not on the opinions, right? And then if there are any ambiguity, resolve that ambiguity first, and then you take a decision. And how do you resolve the ambiguity? There are different approaches: end-based approach, means-based approach, virtue-based approach, rights-based approach, justice-based approach, common good approach. There are so many approaches to deal with ethical dilemma. Select any one of them based on that particular context, based on that particular situation, that help to resolve the ethical dilemma, right? And finally, once the decisions are made, you go through the outcome, you assess the outcome, and you act on a feedback. That is also a way to deal with the ethical dilemma. So these are the ways, process to resolve the ethical dilemma, right? Very simple question, straightforward question, small topic also. Let's move to the next one. This is also quote based questions. what do each of these following quotation means to you in present context? So the true rule in determining to embrace or reject anything is not whether it has any evil in it, but whether it has more evil than good. There are few things wholly evil or wholly good, and almost everything, especially of government policies, is an inseparable compound of the two. So that our best judgment of the preponderance between them is continually demanded. Abraham Lincoln. In a simple terms, I will tell you that in an administration there is no completely pure evil and there is no pure good. There is a balance of both the things. Take an example of last question in dam only. In the dam, you are constructing a dam. It is going to help a lot of people, but at the same time, a lot of displacement is also going to happen. So there is no complete evil or complete bad. It is just a mix of both. And whatever the decisions you make sure that the evil is lesser, the good is more. So that is how you make a decision, and this is what Abraham Lincoln is talking about. Especially in government policies, it is inseparable compound. What is that inseparable compound? Goodness and badness, evil and good, both of them are there. And if you are a public servant, it is your responsibility to reduce the evil and to enhance the goodness. So this is what it is talking about. And even you construction of railways, also construction of road, construction of dam, there is going to be displacement. So this is what it is talking about. So let's answer this question. Ultimately, what you should focus on, your focus should be on balancing, harmony and balance. Balancing, it is not that balance the positive and negative, it is balancing. It means that reduce this evil to a very insignificant insignificant way and enhance this goodness. That is the balance. It is not that equal the negatives and positive. And harmony also harmonizing, minimizing the evil and enhancing the goodness. So that harmony and balance should be there. This is what the entire quotation is talking about. This is by Abraham Lincoln here. And see, you have to substantiate this statement. See, this is the pragmatic approach. Here it is. This is the pragmatic approach in administration. See, in administration, you cannot have that idealistic structure. It is impossible. This is the pragmatic approach you have to follow. You have to see. You cannot say that I am going to go 100% positive things, and I am going to avoid, even if there is small percentage of evil is there, I am going to avoid it. I am not going to take any decision. That is not going to happen. Even small policy implementation, policy formulation, combination of evil and goodness will be there. And pragmatic approach is that you have to make a decision through the compounding approach. Compounding approach is that minimizing the evil, maximizing the goodness. That is the pragmatic approach here. And see, governance itself is a very complex structure. There is no pure evil, pure goodness. That is not there. Whatever decision you make, some people they are going to oppose it, some people they are going to accept it. So it is your responsibility to make sure that you should not go through it extreme complexities, extreme evil, extreme good. It is not going to happen. Follow this pragmatic approach here, and then ultimately what you have to do is greatest benefit to greatest number of people. Utilitarian approach, you can go for a greatest benefit to greatest number of people. That you can do. And let's see the application also. Application of this particular approach, where exactly, how exactly you are going to apply, and where exactly you are going to apply. And you are going to apply in administration, how exactly the application works. Usually the approach is that you have to see, the first we talked about the statement, government, it has to balance of what? Positive and negative. It means that minimizing the negative, maximizing the positive. So this will lead to the balance and harmony, right? In administration, there is no pure good and there is no pure evil. Now, as an example, give the example of dam only. This is one thing. Now you have to substantiate. How do you substantiate? Substantiate is that, see, this is the pragmatic approach. And in governance, there is no pure evil and there is no pure good. This thing, this is more idealistic, extreme evil, extreme good, that is not there. So government, it has to maintain that balance between these kind of thing, and it is quite complex also. And finally, you have to focus on greatest benefit, greatest benefit to the people, greatest benefit to the maximum number of people. So that is the approach. This is how I am substantiating the statement. Now let's see the application also. Application of this particular statement. See, the first and foremost aspect here is, I told you that that balance should be there, evilness and the good, minimizing the evil, maximizing the goodness. In order to balance this, you need to have a wisdom. When you have wisdom, this wisdom will lead to the ethical judgment. And this ethical judgment will lead to that harmony. Right? So you need to have that wisdom. This wisdom will lead to the ethical judgment. This ethical judgment will lead to the harmony between pure evil and pure goodness. That aspect. And then I told you that administration, it is governance is complex. So the idealism, it's not there. Idealism, don't expect this idealism in administration. What you have to do is, your administration, your governance is complex, it is beyond idealism. So you should focus on the selecting lesser evil. Now we are talking about how to apply this concept. So first, have the ethical judgment. Second thing, go beyond idealism. So complex administration, complex governance, it means that you have to go beyond administration. Beyond administration, it means that select the lesser evil, right? And then wherever there is a moral ambiguity, you solve the moral ambiguity, then only you can apply this, or else it will be difficult. So wherever there is a moral ambiguity, first you solve this moral ambiguity, then you apply, then you follow this particular approach. So ultimately, what best way to deal with that? Combination of means and ends. You follow the means and ends approach to deal with these kind of situation. You have to take a decision where combination of both positive and negatives are there. So in order to deal with that, follow with means and end based approach. This is what this particular question is demanding. So idealism, it is not possible, so ethical relativism. So you can go for a ethical realism. So this is with respect to this particular question. Ultimately, what you have to make, you have to talk about the social welfare. So even if there is a mix of evil and the goodness, if it is lead to the social welfare, if it is lead to the public welfare, if it is lead to the social well-being, then enhance this, but make sure that the combination of means and ends you are implementing in this approach, right? Let's move to the next one. Anger and intolerance are enemies of a correct understanding. Mahatma Gandhi. This is a statement. Again, this quotation, dissect the quotation. The first we talk about the anger and intolerance, then we'll connect it with the correct understanding. So anger and intolerance and the correct understanding. See, what is anger? Anger, it is a intense human emotion, and this intense human emotion causes distress, it causes displeasure. So it is intense human emotion, this causes feeling of displeasure, and when it is not unmanaged, when it is not managed properly, then it leads to the significant distress, it leads to the undesirable behavior. And tolerance, it is talking about intolerance. Tolerance, you know that I have certain way of living, you have certain way of living, and respecting and accepting your way of living, that is tolerance. And intolerance is that refusal or to accept others' belief system, others' opinion, and even the behavior also. So this, I have certain opinion, I have certain belief system, and I am not ready to listen to your opinion, listen to belief system. That will lead to the intolerance. Tolerance is a permissive attitude. It is that I am accepting your point of view, I am accepting your belief system, but intolerance is opposite to that permissive attitude here. So this is anger and intolerance, and this anger and intolerance, it has a direct effect on correct understanding. When you want to have a correct understanding, what do you need? The clear communication. See, for correct understanding, what is required? Clear communication. And this anger and intolerance, this is going to impact this clear and communication, because anger, it means that there is a intense emotion, there is a displeasure, that it is going to impact my judgment. So anger, because of I am distressed, I am in the state of displeasure, so this is going to cloud my judgment. So anger is going to impact my judgment. I am doing a wrong analysis. I am not understanding the situation. And the same way, intolerance, I am refusing your point of view. I am not ready to listen what you are trying to say. So there is a refusal. Because of my wrong judgment, because I am refusing your point of view, eventually this will impact the clear understanding. When there is no clear understanding, the situation will be very tough. As an example, take an example of trade wars. The USA is putting a lot of trade tariff, higher trade tariffs on another country. Here is that the aspect of intolerance is there. So this intolerance, this is leading to anger. This anger in turn, this is leading to the intolerance. The vicious cycle has been created between anger and intolerance, and this is leading to this is affecting the communication. That is the reason the trade wars, all these things, international agreements are not getting signed, because of this intolerance, because of this anger. Even within the country also, we have interstate water issues, and most of these are emotional based actually. When you have the anger at the social level, it will turn into intolerance, and eventually both of them are going to impact the correct understanding. And when there is no correct understanding, there is no effective communication, this is going to lead to the distress in the society, this is going to lead to the disharmony in the society. So this is what this particular quote is talking about. So if we have this anger and intolerance, this is going to lead to the prejudice, this is going to lead to the stereotyping, this is going to lead to the insensitivity, and on the whole, the non-inclusive atmosphere, it is going to be created because of anger and intolerance. So ultimately, now I have given an example, interstate water and even the trade wars, all these things you can connect it with it. And finally, you can connect it with the political perspective, you can connect it with the administrative perspective also. In administration also, if you have anger and intolerance, you are getting offended for small things. I am a civil servant and I have this quality of anger, so I am not ready to listen anybody. I am rejecting the views of my hierarchy, top officials also, and I have this attitude of anger and intolerance, and even my colleagues are not happy with the way I conduct myself as an administrator. So even for public administration, this is negative, and even for the political leadership also, if political leaders have this anger and intolerance, it is going to impact the policy formulation. Again, it is going to damage the social fabric of a society. From a public servant perspective, from the political leader perspective, this is very much important, and we need to manage this anger and intolerance for the effective communication. When there is effective communication, the correct understanding happens. Correct understanding, eventually harmony, peace in the society, and there is harmony in administration also. And how do you, as a way forward, you can write how do you achieve this, how do you get rid of this anger and intolerance. Maybe cognitive restructuring, it means that changing your belief system, working from the basis, belief system, values, and all these things. And you can talk about, you can implement the emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence also helps you to understand your emotions. You have emotion of anger, you have attitude of intolerance, you can understand it and you can change this, you can use it for the benefit of the social well-being. That is also possible. And also develop the positive attitude. These are the negative attitudes. When you have the positive attitude of patience, when you have the positive attitude of tolerance, they can suppress these negative attitudes. So that is also another advantage. So this is how you deal with anger and intolerance. So this is with respect to, see, when you have that patience and tolerance, when you have this patience and tolerance, you understand the necessities of other person, you understand the fears of other person, and eventually this is going to build that empathy factor. When there is an empathy factor, the understanding will be clear. So this will lead to the clear understanding. So this is why you this anger and intolerance, that has to be controlled, and in place of anger and intolerance, develop the patience and tolerance. That will lead to the clear understanding. And whether it is political leadership or the public administration, this is very much important for the well-being of a society on the whole, right? So let's move to the next one, the final question, I guess. Falsehood takes place of truth when it results in unblemished common good. This statement, this quote is by Tirukula. It's a Tamil scripture. And the thing is, falsehood takes the place of truth when it results in unblemished common good. Falsehood, it means that, see, truth is a virtue, truth is a value. And here, sometimes I am telling the word untruth, I am not using the word lie, untruth. Even the untruth, if untruth leads to something good, unblemished is very strong, unblemished common good, then you can consider it. So you can consider this falsehood also. This is what the this particular statement is talking about. So usually see, truth is a virtue, truth is a value. So truth is basis of other values also. If you have value of truth, then it will lead to the honesty. Honesty will lead to the integrity. Integrity will lead to the probity. So truth as a virtue. Sorry, if you consider truth as a virtue, then it is based for other foundational values in your life. If you compromise with truth, you are going to compromise with other foundational values in your life, like integrity, probity, all these, compassion, empathy, all these things. So here truth is a virtue. But there are some circumstances where untruth leads to some good outcome. It leads to some positive outcome. Then this can also be considered. Then this untruth can also be considered. This is what the statement is talking about. But here there is a condition. And what is this good? Here in this question it is talking about unblemished good. Unblemished good is that whatever the actions you are taking, whatever the untruth you are following, it should not harm anyone, and it should not go against any legal aspect, and there should be an altruistic tendency. There should be an altruistic tendency. It should not harm anyone. Ultimately, eventually, the outcome will be positive. The outcome will be goodness. So this is the unblemished goodness. If the untruth is leading for unblemished goodness, then accept it. Then accept this untruth. Accept this falsehoodness. Right? So this is what the question is talking about. As an example, you are a doctor and there is a terminally ill patient, and you know that patient is going to die, but if you tell lie to that patient that everything is going to be all right, you are giving some kind of confidence. You, at least for last few days, the person will have the sense of some kind of, even though it is a false confidence, even though it is a false sense of security, but at least for last few days of your life, he will have that peace and calm. If you tell him that you are going to die in few days, then till the death he is going to be suffer. So it is going to cause a lot of trauma to that person. Here your untruth, your one lie, it is going to give that sense of satisfaction, sense of confidence to a terminally ill patient. Or even you can apply to the national security perspective also. Sometimes you have to tell in order to reduce the, see, if you tell the truth what is happening in the border, that is going to create panic in the society, that is going to create some kind of disturbance in the society. So in order to curb that, you being an administrator or you being a minister, you tell some kind of lie to the public. So this untruth eventually lead to some positive outcome, unblemished outcome. The outcome, it is not harming anybody, it is not hurting anybody, it is not causing any suffering to anybody, then it is good. This is what this particular statement is talking about. So I think this would be sufficient for this. So this is a 10 marker. Explain this and also give an example and mention what exactly this unblemished common good also. This would cover the entire section A. Every single question you have to explain the question, dissect the question and also give examples to the question. So this would be sufficient, and in the next video, the section B, we are going to take up the case studies also. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good time.